So, of course, we've had Jordan Chariton and other members of the TYT Politics team at the site of the protests over the construction of the pipeline in the Dakotas. And more developments have come up in terms of some of the tactics that the police have used against the protesters. Now, we've previously shown you footage of water cannons being used on fires that look suspiciously like human beings. And so Jordan Chariton was at a press conference with the governor, and he asked him about that tactic. And their attempts to evade responsibility for it are pretty interesting. Let's watch.
You said that this is all in the interest of public safety. Was it in the interest of public safety to use water hoses on the 20th?
Well, I wasn't present for that, and Mike, maybe you have a better
speak to that.
Understanding of what developed that particular night.
The fire truck was staged, and it started with fires that the protesters started, fires on the bridge.
There on the left, you see headlights and hazard signals flashing, not fires.
So yes, water was used to not only put out the fires, but to get protesters away from the bridge, away from the dangers of being on the bridge.
The dangers on the bridge were created by the Morton County Police, including freezing water, mace, tear gas, rubber bullets, and grenades.
It was effective, but I would offer that everybody that was on the bridge had the opportunity to leave before water was used. They weren't trapped on the bridge. They were asked to leave numerous times. They chose to stay, so water was...
Here, you see a water protector fall face first over the barbed wire barricade and what looks like officers shooting him multiple times with rubber bullets. Finally, we find a fire, only not on the bridge, in the brush, started by police tear gas canisters, put out by the water protectors.
Would you use it again in a similar situation in sub-freezing temperatures?
If they started fires on the bridge, yes, we would use it again.
You know, brother? Fuck! Medics! Get medics! Get vehicles! Get medics! Get vehicles! On the lines of people. Talk all you want. Just shoot this young lady if she... There you go. Hey! Look at you! You are a coward! Fucking coward! Peaceful! Oh, you coward!
That's not supposed to be happening in the U.S. By the way, it's so perverse that they're using water cannons against them in this particular case. It's almost like by design intended to insult them in their mission.
So there's some great footage and great reporting by Jordan Chariton. You'll find more of that at youtube.com/TYT Politics, where he's been covering it now for weeks. And rarely do you ever see in media an official saying something and then direct evidence on tape to the contrary. Not just because it's hard to find, but because the rest of the media doesn't want to find it. So they want to take the official stance of the government and just broadcast it to you. Investigative reporting could cause trouble and is expensive, etc. Although somehow we managed to afford it. And so there you have Jordan quoting the cop. I mean, you saw it for yourself. They started we were firing on them because they... or we were spraying them with water because there was fires. There was no fires. Then you saw they started the fires by throwing the tear gas. It's all on tape. It's all on tape. So I think that a lot of people in America still have this old way of thinking that if a cop is telling me, if the government is telling me, if someone in authority is telling me, it must be true. I mean, would the governor lie? Come on, they're politicians.
Are you questioning the word of Governor Dalrymple?
And in that case, just real quick, that Governor DAPL, to be fair to him, didn't lie. He just threw that cop under the bus by being like, I wasn't there, let that guy handle it, right? You go ahead and lie to him.
And on top of this was the eviction order that came a couple of days later that mandatory evacuation that says it's for the protesters' safety because of winter conditions, and we can't it's too cold there. And it's like you were just spraying them
Yeah.
with freezing water in sub-freezing temperatures, and now you want them to leave because of winter conditions?
Well, they know they can't control their hoses, and under those conditions, you better run.
Look, I'm telling you, man, I am grateful to this audience because by joining us, you allowed us to hire somebody like Jordan. If he wasn't there the whole time, breaking this story time after time, I don't know if this gets any kind of coverage. Yes, Amy Goodman was there. Some other good folks have been there, but
Not to mention our cameramen and the aides and all that.
yeah, and Taylor and Eric and everybody who's ever been down there for TYT. But we've been there for weeks and weeks. Jordan's gone back 5 times. And just the fact that you guys powered our ability to expose their lies is amazing. It's amazing. So I love that piece of footage there to show you how it's not true. And for so long, the authorities kept saying, it's the protesters that are the violent ones. And I would see in all the national publications, and if cable news ever covered it, reports of violence from the protests. Reports from where? You don't have any reporters there. What do you mean reports? So when you challenge them on it, yes, the reports are from the authorities, and we don't really know if it's true or not. But hey, if it's from the authorities, we just report it like it is true. and now the final piece of hypocrisy, as Lee points out, is the governor pretending to be concerned about the protesters. And he's like, oh, winter is coming. And so I just want to make sure that they're okay out there in the cold. That's hilarious. I mean, we gave him the nickname Governor DAPL because all he's ever done is supported the Dakota Access Pipeline, and all he's ever done is ordered everyone that works in his state government to go after these water protectors. So please spare us your obvious lie that you're concerned about their safety.
Do you think it kind of sounds a little bit like maybe a Tamir Rice kind of story where you're seeing the same things? So maybe if we would have had a system that said Black Lives Matter and we had systems and institutions that do that, then we wouldn't be here, and you would understand that the cops have been lying to you for the last, since their inception, because there are 3 things and 3 things only that I go over all the time: the creation and maintenance of a slave class, the protection of elite and white property, and the continued genocide of the Native American people. Every action that you see American policing do will constitute at least one of those things.
And so it's one thing for people to just see the, warmed over news from the mainstream media and go, oh, well, I guess, those goddamn protesters, they're all so violent, and, and they had it coming. And it goes to what you're saying, Michael, which is there are these storylines. And in fact, in Washington, they are constantly talking about what's the narrative? What's the narrative we're all pushing? And sometimes I push back. I'm like, what do you mean narrative? Like, so I've had op-eds rejected because it wasn't going with the narrative of the day. I'm like, wait, it's my op-ed. It isn't your op-ed. Why do I have to follow your narrative? And so there are these storylines that are always told. The protesters are the problem.
Unless they're the Tea Party.
Yeah, that's right. Blacks are violent, except for the fact that we did the slavery. Right? Native Americans won't listen to reason, except for the fact that we violated every treaty with Native Americans we've ever done, including the one that's affected here in Standing Rock.
Yeah.
Where they built a pipeline is unceded territory that belongs to Sioux Nation. Now, again, if you're a right-winger out there, you think, that's crazy. That's not true. No way. What does that mean, unceded territory? No, the U.S. government acknowledges, we kind of give away their land. So in return, we offered them $108 million in 1944, and Sioux Nation said, no, thank you. And again, now that trust is built up to $1.3 billion. And they go to Sioux Nation now, they are not wealthy. I don't know if you've noticed, right? They could definitely afford to get some resources and compensation. They're like, here's $1.3 billion because the United States government violated the treaty. And we just stole your land and gave it away. And Sioux Nation says, no, thank you. We would like our land back.
You have a hard time with the conservative thing, too, because even if it's a right-wing position, it's like you're actually trying to argue whether it's the first time, the second time, or the third time the land was stolen. Yeah. Like, I don't understand. Like, as far as I'm concerned, if any tribe has a history on a land and they say this is ours, it's like, yeah, totally.
I think you guys are giving them too much credit. The idea that that they care where it shakes out with the treaties. I think they'd be like, fuck the treaties. I don't fucking care about them.
Well, but then don't pretend you're in favor of law and order.
Agreed.
Because you're not. You're against the rule of law.
And you're right that it doesn't fit the narrative, because this is uniting, obviously, the left, but also a lot of the right, libertarians. Like, this is going through people's property, and it's not just Native Americans. I interviewed one woman in Iowa who was on her own farm, the same pipeline, Dakota Access, went through her farm. She was arrested for getting in the way of construction equipment on her own farm. And it's like, so there's a lot of right-wingers who are like, hey, if it's my property and I don't want an oil pipeline through it, I should be able to say no.
Yeah. Although we saw in the primary, remember when Donald Trump started talking about the benefits of eminent domain and using it, and one of my many terrible predictions was that that will hurt him among conservatives. But they just shifted a couple of neurons. They were like, yes, I've always been against using eminent domain, but now Trump says it's good, so I guess maybe it's good. They don't seem to hold too tightly to even their most core convictions.
But later today, we have a story about a 90-year-old woman who got evicted by the king of foreclosures, who now is our Secretary of Treasury. And she's like, oh, I can't believe I voted for Trump.
True.
So I think that, for example, if 2,000 veterans showed up on the farm of that Republican woman in Iowa and said, we're here to help, I think that's a different narrative, if you will.
Perhaps.
So you guys are starting at Standing Rock, but you never know where it ends. Together we can change the media, make it more representative of you and not the powerful. Come join us, make a difference. TYTnetwork.com/join.